Classic Sci-Fi this time on the Geek Seat. It's going to be a very special episode, and we're here live. Let's go around and introduce ourselves. Let's start on the end over here to my right.
Hi, I'm Bobby Nash.
You're winning Bobby Nash.
Yeah, but see, I can't say that. If I say that, it's kind of, yeah.
This is award-winning author, Bobby Nash.
Yes, I'm an author. I write books and comic short stories.
Very short stories.
Yeah, got some screenplays, stuff like that. So.
His favorite one is "It was a dark and stormy night."
Yeah, there was a knock at the door.
Exactly. And to my left, I have the very lovely Jennifer Hartshorn.
Hello. I am, I started out as a game designer, and that's how I first ended up coming to DragonCon. Did that for a while, ended up going into corporate communications and stuff, got out of that, started a LARP production company, which is still
for people who don't know what LARP is.
Live action role-playing. We actually dress up in costumes and go out to a state park for the weekend and beat on each other with plumbing, insulation, and things like that. And throw birdseed at each other.
Hey, pretty cool.
And also do a lot of theater and whatnot. And that's like it.
And she left that for the lucrative world of podcasting.
Yes.
For the big bucks.
Oh yeah. I'm a college professor. I teach English.
Awesome.
Just that little thing.
Yes.
Well, it's not as cool.
And to her left.
I am Mike Gordon. Howdy! I love this. I love DragonCon. This is DragonCon number 20 for me. So I am celebrating my 2 decades of DragonCon. And it's been fantastic. Fan-tiki-tastic, in fact. I am also the writer and creator of Tiki Zombie, the comic, and I got a little table in the comic and pop art alley, artist alley.
At the Hyatt.
At the Hyatt, so you can come see me there when I'm not doing this sort of thing.
Unless you're listening to this right now on the internet, and you won't be able to come do that.
Well, you can go to the Hyatt. He might not be there.
Right. That's exactly.
Exactly.
No, I'm going to be there. I'll be there.
Just for you. He'll be waiting for you.
Yeah, write in and say, I'm going to come to the Hyatt at 5:30 this afternoon, and you bring Tiki Zombie.
If that's how I have to sell my books, then
Mike is not too proud. He'll do it for you.
Exactly.
And to his left.
I'm Joe Crowe, the director of this very track that we're on. And thank you. Woo! And I also run a website and a podcast that is part of the Earth Station 1 network called the Revolution SF Roundtable. And we do that. And there's just geeky stuff popping.
Exactly. You guys actually tomorrow will be doing a show live over at the podcast track.
And even if it's just like however many of us on the panel, I don't care.
And Joe won't admit it because he's very too proud to admit it, but he is the president of the Manimal Fan Club.
I am the president.
And sole member.
And sole member. However, last night in here at 11:30 in the evening, I ran a quickly canceled Sci-Fi TV night, and the very first thing I showed was Manimal, and I filled the room up. So, in your face, every other time.
Joe, did you offer money for that?
I did.
It was advertised as a sneak preview for Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, I will say that I did not tell anyone that they would be watching Manimal until they got in there, and then I locked the door. So they thought, oh, what's good and quickly canceled like that we can watch? Oh, surely not Manimal. There's no way we'll watch that. Oh my God, we can't get out!
But usually you have to remember the amount of people that were in here is the amount of people that actually watched it the first time.
Yes. 38 people in 1983.
Wow. Well, actually, before we do it, because Mike brought up a good point I'd like to do. How many years have you been coming to DragonCon, Joe?
2013.
Or just what was your first year, if you want to do it that way?
My first year, 2000.
2000, okay.
Yeah.
And so, Mike, what was your first year?
It would have been 94.
94. Jim?
Also 94.
Mike?
I think William and I first came here, I think it was 2005. So this is my 8th. Yes, we're fairly new.
Yeah, my first one was 1989. Now I feel really old.
Well, no, I think you and I are close to the same age.
Yeah.
Just,
Well, it was the year I graduated high school.
see, there, well,
And,
yeah.
that was basically what I graduated high school and then came to the convention like a few weeks later.
Yeah. When I was 18, it was hard for me to leave Chilton County, much less drive 3 hours to get here from Alabama. But DragonCon was here then. How old is it? 25 years?
26 or 27.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think it's, yeah.
Last year was the
yeah.
25th,
Yeah.
26.
And it was a lot smaller back then.
But you know what? At the time, I thought it was the biggest thing I'd ever seen.
Absolutely.
Of course.
And sorry, I mean hijacked it. That was a good point.
And every year it's proved you wrong. Now it's not the smallest, and in fact it keeps getting bigger.
Yep.
Yes.
It does.
What was
it-
it?
but
We were
it's still
talking to
DragonCon.
people today,
Yeah.
and the cops are actually estimating that there's going to be like 66,000 people here.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
And that's not counting the parade, I'm assuming.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
They said for the parades, they were estimating 120,000. That's
Oh,
because last year was 100,000 and the parade route was they almost doubled the size of it this year.
oh wow.
And so they are estimating at least 25,000 more people coming down to it. And we were right outside of the Hyatt this year watching it. And we got out there about 9 o'clock this morning. We were right along the curb, but as we sat there, people just started getting thicker and thicker and thicker. And I don't mean people were getting thicker and thicker. I mean the crowds were getting thicker, and I think it was at least 10 to 15 people deep. And there were even people on the roof of the Hyatt and such. And they were raising it, of course.
And that thicker comment is the exact reason we do not do live episodes on a regular basis. Right?
Of course. Yeah. But, the reason we are here, though, is we usually do a segment on our show called The Geek Seat.
Yep.
And we thought it'd be kind of spiffy if we put American Classic Sci-Fi on the Geek Seats.
Oh my gosh.
So we're going to do a little bit of a slight difference, and we are going to get everyone in the audience here involved too. So it's an interactive ESO this week.
Yay.
So
Terrific.
it should be actually kind of fun to do, and we have a series of questions here, top secret that Mike Gordon wrote, and only recently revealed to me.
Because it's not the regular geeksy question. It's
No,
a
it isn't.
special edition of the geeksy.
Ooh, so these are going to be actually questions. The way we're going to do it
They're
is
similar,
we're
but
going
they
to
had to be adapted a little bit.
you couldn't ask, classic sci-fi, what was your what was your worst geek out moment or something.
Sure can. The can's like a mammal.
He's right here.
My bad. I'm used to it being over Skype.
Yeah. So we're going to go through and ask the series of questions. We'll start with the crew here, and we'll go down the line, and then we'll go into the audience for each question. And thank goodness we have William, actually, being our microphone boy today. So we're going to get, hopefully decent quality and, sound-wise, and William will also give his answer, too. So.
William's like, I will.
You didn't tell me that, Dad. So I thought we'd put him on the spot a little bit. So we're going to go for our first question. Question number 1 is, what is the favorite geek out moment in classic American sci-fi? Let's start with Bobby.
The opening credits to the $6 Million Man.
Oh, the Steve Austin Barely Alive. That one?
Just
Good
hearing that, dum, 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 dum,
Yeah.
Good answer.
gets me even that gets me every time.
Okay. Jim?
Does this have to be TV or can we do
TV, movies,
the
literature?
beginning of Star Wars?
Okay. That's true. Okay.
I'm going to say the sort of the opening theme to Twilight Zone.
Okay. Joe?
The opening theme to Manimal.
I see where this is going.
I see a theme going here.
It's by Mr. William Conrad from Canon, and he was Fat Man on Jake and Fat Man. And apparently, just from seeing him on things, you think, well, this guy must be just an intolerable human being. And I hope he was, because I don't want my image of him to change. But as I'm listening to Manimal, all I can see is Fat Man going, "Dr. Jonathan Chase,
He was somebody who was rich, and I don't care, and somebody get me a hot dog.
Okay. Mine actually is close to what Jen's was. My favorite classic, moment was when Phantom Menace came out, and no.
Jen's like, how is
Go
that?
ahead, go ahead.
Everybody's coming up with it.
I got goosebumps when I was sitting in the movie theater the very first day it came out and seeing it across the screen a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. And then all of a sudden the Star Wars theme went on. That was like total geek out moment for me and everything. That was just like, the rest of the movie was like,
Especially following that 20th century fanfare.
Exactly.
Which I guess we will never see again on Star Wars.
No. So. Now it's going to be when you wish upon. Okay, let's go now into the audience.
Anybody?
Let's start. Elizabeth, you're the first person.
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
I gotta say, going to that first moment when you step into a convention, and especially those early Star Trek conventions, which were really getting things off the ground. I went to the 25th anniversary Star Trek convention. I was a very young teenager, but I remember it, and so I'm so excited. I'm like, wait a minute, the 50th is coming up? What?
Yeah.
But that moment of those early conventions, walking in before it got so huge, classic moment.
Okay, cool. Rita? We know everyone in the audience by name.
This was when I had just started watching the new Doctor Who, and Jason was determined to introduce me to the classic Doctor Who, and we started watching An Unearthly Child, and that theme song for the Doctor Who came out. That was a geek out moment for me too.
Technically not
American classic sci-fi.
Oh.
She was in America when it happened, right?
I was in America when it happened.
Did you watch it on an American channel?
William?
So,
Yes.
So there.
That's a good. Go ahead, JC.
I was going to say, for me, it was Battlestar Galactica.
Okay. The original or
The original, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
As soon as you see the ships coming across the screen and just the music playing, it's just like, oh, this is going to be the most awesome thing I've ever seen in my life.
Did you watch it originally, or
Yes.
did you see it on?
When I was a kid, I grew up on
'Cause
Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah.
I know when they were showing it when I was growing up, the very first time they showed it was the TV movie. They actually cut into it like 20 minutes into it because they signed the Egyptian-Israeli peace treaty.
Oh, wow.
And so you didn't get to see it. They had to re-show it. I think a couple days later.
I do remember that.
I love Battlestar Galactica. It was awesome.
Here. I love that.
Yep.
Right in the back.
One of the ones I do remember when I was a small kid, about age 7,
Right.
was the man from Atlantis when he started breathing underwater. That freaked me
I
out.
loved how he swam like.
Well, swimming
Trying to
wasn't so
swim
bad,
like
but
that
it
as a
was
kid.
the breathing underwater.
Yeah.
Well, it was funny because when I watched Dallas the first time, it's like, wait a minute, that's the man from Atlantis.
I didn't realize
That's why I
that
came back
until
to life in the
years later.
shower.
Yeah. That totally makes sense.
Mine is totally different from everybody else's.
Can I see the microphone real quick? Because it sounds like, I'm not sure if that's, well, I'm trying talking into it, see if it's working.
Hi.
No, it's not.
Yeah, I didn't think it was on.
Yeah.
That's right. It's in the posters.
Again, another example of why we don't do a whole lot of live shows.
Is that microphone connected to Skype?
It has
Yes, you should hear some of our outtakes when Skype decides to. And,
to.
you know,
Testing 1, 2. There we go.
There we go.
Hey.
yes, Skype especially loves Mike Gordon because there are a lot of times Mike will start talking and just in the middle of his sentence is gone.
Exactly. See, people don't understand how much editing I actually do to the show.
Oh, and by the way, Doctor Who does count because it aired on PBS, an American channel.
Yeah!
Yes! That's right. And it's on your poster right there.
It is on my first.
Joe, it's your fault once again.
It's on me.
Go, Rita.
Sorry, go ahead.
So mine is a little different from everybody else's. I remember growing up in my early teen years and Gilbert Gottfried every Saturday night on USA all night with all of the horrible sci-fi bad B movies. I loved him. I geeked out. I would get my bowl of popcorn and stay up all night
Okay.
watching him.
All right.
And then I think
we have time for
next to you.
one more. We have time for 2 more. Okay.
Yeah, they.
So my first ultimate geek out moment was the first movie I ever saw in a movie theater, which was The Empire Strikes Back. And I was like, oh look, it's Han Solo and it's Luke Skywalker and they're in the snow and he's riding that kangaroo and he's using the Force.
All right, one more. We'll go to the next question.
I agree with you on Star Wars. That's a really incredible moment. But also for me, Wonder Woman. Because as a small child, I mean, it was incredibly empowering. And so just seeing that explosion of stars coming out, and then when they re-released the DVDs, I had that same feeling when it came back on. So it was just a shiver, and I watched it for 2 straight days.
Isn't it amazing how those music cues, though? Because a lot of our stuff I noticed had music cues like themes or the opening.
All right. You guys ready for the next one? Yep. Most disappointing moment in classic American sci-fi. Manimal! Because there was so much promise with that.
So much.
And when they canceled it, I was like, someday Joe Crowe is going to be so upset about this.
Because they knew each of its viewers by name.
Of course.
We've really infuriated a 13-year-old child. Thanks very much, NBC.
But in all realism, my most disappointing moment was there was a TV show we used to watch called Nowhere Man.
Yeah.
And it was an awesome, awesome show. And they left it on such a cliffhanger that it was just like, oh my God, what are they going to do? And then they canceled the series because it was, I think, early UPN or something like that. And it was an amazing show, and they just like dropped it, and it was just like, they've got to bring it back, at least a movie, something, you know. But it was like, never did. That's my most disappointing.
There's something about the quickly canceled shows because you really knew either how good or how bad they were going to get. With a show that lasts a while, you have peaks and valleys. Well, there's a good season, there's a bad season. Well, that season's really good, or that episode's really good. With quickly canceled stuff, all you have is 3 or 4 episodes. And either you like them a lot, or there's nothing else. Right. So I think you become more, and when I say you, I mean me, you become more, but you take to heart those few episodes you have because that's all there is.
Okay, Joe, what was your most disappointing?
My disappointing moment, besides the one we know about, I really, I don't want to tag team with you on the episode 1, but as soon as the music stopped and the actual plot began,
there was a plot.
Yeah, I thought I waited 19 years and
just listen to the Weird Al song. There's a plot somewhere.
Exactly, there is a plot somewhere. But yeah, there was that, and it was when I realized all that waiting, and this is what happens. So
and this is Jar Jar.
Yeah, welcome to Jar Jar.
Okay, Mike.
It was the cancellation of Battlestar Galactica after the first season. Yes. Like you, I mean that was my TV show. I mean I wasn't. I loved Star Trek, but I didn't have to go through Star Trek because I wasn't around when it originally aired. I mean I kind of was, but not in any sort of capacity to know what was going on. Not to even write a letter. but when Battlestar went, I mean, it was so short. I mean, they only gave it a season, and then they canceled it, and they put a lot of money, time, effort, and they had something there. They really had something there. But they just decided it was too expensive, and my dreams were crushed.
Okay, Jen?
Well, I guess it's sci-fi, so I'm not allowed to say the Lone Ranger movie.
Well, that's not classic either.
Not classic.
Oh, the Lone Ranger. Okay.
You mean the Lone Ranger? We have buttons up here for?
Yeah.
Well,
Did you forget it?
You're talking about the 80s?
No. If I was going to go with certainly my earliest big disappointment, there was a show on in the 80s called Shadow Chasers. And I loved that show so much. It was about a sleazy tabloid reporter and a serious college professor who did parapsychology and stuff. And I thought that was just the absolute coolest series. I was probably 10 when it got quickly canceled, And little 10-year-old me went around and got like 150 signatures of people saying, yeah, like half my town.
You are an activist.
Yes, and I said, I wrote to ABC and I said, you've got to put, and they didn't.
I just want
So
to
I
come
was
over and
kind
cry.
Yeah, I was, when I'm mad about something, I can be pretty stubborn.
Okay, Bobby.
Yeah, mine's going to be cancellation stuff too. You know, we've mentioned the quickly canceled, but there were also those that were just starting to find their legs.
Yeah.
And we run across this so much with the genre television. Like, you know, it might get that second season, but it gets cut off there.
Right.
Just as they're finding their legs, and there was so much of that in classic sci-fi that only got 2 seasons, maybe 3 seasons, but probably if I had to pick one that really hurt was when Buck Rogers just kind of disappeared.
Yep.
Because I was a huge Buck Rogers fan, and it just kind of, you know, and there was no, it didn't end on purpose. It was just, done. And yeah, that one got me as a kid. Yeah.
Anyone in the audience? Okay, here. Mr. Johnny Lee himself.
Being a big Superman, Batman fan, Superman 3 was a big one. Love Superman 1 and 2. I think maybe even been, in my opinion, better than 1.
Although I would have picked 4.
4. Yeah, it got worse. Yeah.
Thank you.
I will say though, as disappointing as Superman 3 was, it still has one of my favorite Christopher Reeve Superman scenes in it. He has landed. They're fighting the big fire at the factory or the plant, and it's one shot. He lands into a walk. What's the problem to the fire chief? The fire chief sees who it is. We got people trapped. He takes 2 steps and flies off, and it's one shot. And it is absolutely gorgeous. The rest of the movie, you have to live with it.
Right. Okay, cool. Anybody else? Right there. And then we'll go on to the next question.
I'm just going to go a little specific, but it was the $6 Million Man episode when he met the Bigfoot. And the disappointment was that Bigfoot was guarding aliens. Like, what?
It's weird. Lindsay Wagner yesterday said she was very disappointed in the fact that Bigfoot was a robot.
Yeah, she did say that.
Yeah.
Okay, very cool. Thank you. All right, next question for the panel. Who's your favorite character in classic American sci-fi?
Ooh.
You can come around and look at the poster.
Han Solo.
Han Solo?
I'm going to go with Han Solo.
I was going to say Han, but yeah, since you beat me to it, I will go with the character that got me started on my geeky road, Spider-Man.
Spider-Man. Okay, Mike.
I stole Mike's answer.
No, you did not. No.
I was going to say, didn't you write these questions?
I did.
Yeah, at least you had time to think about them.
But I didn't. Why should I have an advantage? James T. Kirk.
Okay. Which one?
Before or after?
Before or after J.J. Abrams?
You're going to ask Joe even though you know his answer.
Yeah, well...
Joe, we already know the answer.
But because you already know the answer, I'll say another one, and it's The Incredible Hulk. I loved him starting with the TV show, and because that was the first, besides Superman, I'm not sure what the comparison in years, but seeing one of my Marvel guys on television, seeing a live action, any superhero in live action, the first time that happened is always tremendous, and still is in 2013. But the first time I saw The Incredible Hulk, I thought, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen.
Awesome.
And that first episode, when even though all it took was a car being busted in the rain to make him the Hulk, okay, but still great.
Well, try changing a tire in the rain on 285.
Yeah.
It's enough to get anyone.
Just driving on 285 is enough to make you want to Hulk out.
All right. For me, I have 2, but I'm going to have to limit it to 1. So I'm going to have to go for Agent Dale Cooper from Twin Peaks.
Wow. Excellent.
Yes. He was always zen at his best, and he always had all the answers, and he was like a little kid going through this, trying to figure out who had killed Laura Palmer on the trail of Bob or whoever it was. at the time, and them just ending the show with him being possessed was just like, dude.
You know, that doesn't really, now I think about it, it doesn't really surprise me because he's really Doctor Who-ish.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He's very
Very
Doctor Who. I love, like, you know, when they were trying to figure out, like, eliminating suspects, he was doing it by breaking bottles, throwing rocks at them and everything. And it was just like, that is just the thing a doctor would do, you know, like trying to figure out. Okay, anyone have their characters?
This one's a little off again. Sissy Spacek as Carrie.
Oh,
She absolutely got me hooked into anything fantasy, sci-fi, scary, horror. I was zapped. I was like, yes, get them. They were awful. Yes, yes.
Oh, I,
I'm so
I
excited for
totally
it.
could see that. I totally
Lock
could see
the
that.
doors!
Because I know, like, I had, like, my second choice was Carl Kolchak from The Night Stalker.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, that was great.
Darren McGavin, I wish was my dad, you know.
I guess mine would be, I just blanked out.
Oh.
I really did. I had it in my head and I just blanked out. Optimus Prime.
Optimus Prime.
Yeah.
Okay.
I grew up with Transformers and he was one of the favorites.
Very cool. All right.
I think it's worth noting too that he's wearing a Tiki Zombie T-shirt.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Thank you, sir.
Grand Moff Tarkin from Star Wars.
Really?
All right.
Because all of my friends had taken the cooler characters from Star Wars as their favorites. I'm like, who does no one else like? And so I was like, Grand Moff Tarkin. So now I collect his action figure. And I got my first cat. The first cat I owned on my own. His name is Grand Moff Tarkin. And Tarkin is an excellent name for a cat.
Okay.
And Moff.
Yes. All right. Let's look at the flip side of that question then. And do you have one more, Will?
No.
Okay, sorry. Who is your least favorite character in American Sci-Fi? Ooh. Okay, first let's start with Joe this time. The person who can't see manual? No.
Yeah, those bastards. The aliens on Greatest American Hero. Because those people are jerks.
They never gave him a second to not
Now granted, Ralph screwed up the second time because he got the book the second time. But geez, he's supposed to be there to do a job with the thing. You're not gonna. There's no tech support. You're not gonna help him out a little.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just, well, we gave you the suit. Really, that's all.
Mm-hmm.
But the second time he got the book, it shrank, and then he got big. So the tiny little book it's on a pebble somewhere, and so that's no help at all. These guys are terrible management. That's my beef with the aliens on American.
So now they manage Fox Network, right?
Yes,
Okay.
they do. Right.
Okay, Mike?
I was thinking of it from not the one that like the actual character that I'd least like to meet, like in an alley or something, and that would be Cigarette Smoking.
Oh, yeah.
From the X-Men.
He was very good.
I don't smoke anymore, so just be around him would really make me ill, and probably make me want to, pick right back up. But also, he's just, William B. Davis, as much as I love him as an actor, I can't see him in anything else these days. It's just like every time I see him, I expect trouble.
Excellent. All right, Jen?
Well, if we're going for one most disliked, I kind of already said it, and I gotta go with Jar Jar. Because, man, it's just, of all the bad things in that movie, it was
the start.
It was the start and the middle, and it was the biggie, and I just, no.
Okay.
Yeah, oddly enough, I was going to say Anakin Skywalker.
And that's good too.
Yes, not so much. The kid was, but once he was older, the last 2 movies,
Emo,
Emo
Anakin.
Well, I hate to say it was mine. It's his son. It's Luke. Oh, do I have to do this, Uncle War? Uncle Owen. It's just like, no. It's just, he's a whiny kid. He's a whiny Jedi. Just through the whole...
like son.
Exactly. Well, exactly. And it's kind of interesting how they tied the wine all together and everything. And he's not likable or whatever. And he was just, Star Wars would have been so much more interesting if he was not in it. So
Yeah, and he's. I think the bar is set though because he's supposed to be our guy.
Well, exactly.
And he's not our guy, and that's crazy.
I still think though I will put him like when he goes through the most growth of anybody in that saga because when he steps like into Jabba's palace in Return, he owns that. I mean, he's in that cool black suit. He's just flipping the doors open. I mean, he is badass Luke Skywalker, and I'm like, this is what we've been waiting for all this time. Thank you. Not the, oh, look at me, that's impossible. It's not that guy anymore, you know?
Okay, in the audience.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't remember the character's name, but on the not long-lived, the 1980 Battlestar Galactica, the little boy that was supposed to be guiding.
No, not Boxy. No, Dr. Z.
Dr. Z, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
That was bad.
Anybody the guy who greenlit Galactica 1980, that's the guy.
Didn't he cancel Firefly? No.
Probably did. Probably did.
Okay. We know this person? Maybe.
I'd just like to say, in defense of Luke Skywalker, what would you have done when you were 18 years old, your parental figures got incinerated, and some crazy old hermit from the desert said, all right, let's get off this planet. The only planet you've ever known all of your life. I think Luke did all right.
Making the trouble.
He's making the trouble.
He's living up to his name.
Okay.
Anybody else?
Anyone else? Well, everyone liked everyone else.
See, you scared them off.
Everybody, please contribute.
Okay. Now the next question is, who is, ready for this one, what is your favorite quote or pose from classic sci-fi? Or saying? Let's start with Mike, since he wrote it.
That one to me is easy. Space, the final frontier.
Okay.
That's my favorite. I mean, that says it all about sci-fi and fantasy and fiction for me. That is, there's no boundaries.
Okay. Bobby?
That's a toughie. The first one that pops into my head is live long and prosper.
That's mine. Mine too. All right, Jen.
Come back to me.
That's it?
What's that from?
Somebody else.
Okay, Joe.
Besides the obvious, from episode 2 of Manimal, I'm sure we all remember when he says to when he's investigating a crime scene, there's a dead tarantula on top of a gangster, and he says to the other cops, "This spider was murdered." I think that's mine.
Jen?
Putting her on the spot. This is very, very hard, because I'm trying to think if there's like a pose.
See, that's like me later. I know I'm going to leave this panel, and I'm going to go, damn it.
Yeah. Don't keep taking my good ones. Firefly, I aim to misbehave.
That's a
good one.
I admit I am stunned that Mike's, although technically it was a Star Trek, was not from Star Trek 2.
It's in Star Trek 2. It's at the end.
Well, that's true.
Because
it's like, I can't have every conversation I've ever had with Mike Gordon somewhere in there. He slides in the Star Trek 2 quote.
That movie is so quotable. There is not a day that goes by that I do not, at some point, think of a quote from Star Trek 2.
I'm like that with Ghostbusters. I mean, I was trying to flip through all the stuff in there because I had that memorized at one point. But
Did anyone order us?
he's slime.
He's slime. I kind of feel a little funky now. exactly. There's a zillion of them since Bobby took mine. I have to say, probably go to the end of Twin Peaks when Agent Cooper was just smashed his head into the mirror and goes, "How's Annie? How's Annie? How's Annie?" Just love that scene because it's just like now you want to see more and everything, and then it's just like
cut off.
Exactly, gone. Okay, William.
Luke, I am your father.
Good one, JC.
Was that really yours, or was it just because you had the microphone?
I think there are probably a few people in here who can say this along with me. I came here to chew bubble gum.
That was my second.
And kick ass, and I'm all out of bubble gum.
Good old Roddy Piper.
Roddy Piper.
Another Star Trek quote. It's a good day to die.
Yes.
You know, I have two, and I'm going to need help with the second one. The first one is Ghostbusters, when Winston tells Ray, when someone asks you if you're a guy, you say yes. And I think the second one would
Somewhere
be...
right now, Ernie Hudson's poked up his head.
Well, no, yesterday at the Ernie Hudson panel, which is also on our track, the American Sci-Fi Classics track. Again, with the applause. Please don't stop doing that. But he said that in public at that track, which he'll be doing another one tomorrow. So if you want to go and you think maybe he might say it, then there's a good chance he might say it then. But he probably won't say it if you don't see him. So you should go.
I love that logic.
That's some serious promotion.
Thank you. Yes. So, but I saw him say that live last night, and right after that, Gary, my co-host on the track, he started saying that quote. And I said, "You shut up! I just heard Ernie Hudson say it."
Are you the keymaster?
Yeah, see, exactly. That's it.
What was your second one?
Yeah, it's a tie because in the movie Forbidden Planet, Dr. Morbius is taking the commander and the doctor down to see the Krell machine, and he says, "You're going to have to help me with this." What does he say? He says, "Prepare your minds for a new value of scientific dimensions." Is that what he said?
Oh,
yeah.
I dig
Forbidden
it.
Planet, yeah.
Wow, I haven't seen that in a long time.
That's very cool.
Anyone else? What do you mean, Flash Gordon?
Battlestar Galactica with the Cylons with just by your command.
By your command.
By your command.
Oh, that was really good and frightening.
Yes.
It's what the MARTA, well not MARTA, but the airport train at the Atlanta airport used to sound like that.
Yeah.
Please move to the center of the vehicle and away from the doors.
What do you mean, Abby? Abby,
Let the voice flow.
See, look, this is not the Star Wars track. Can we back a little bit? The free promotion for the Star Wars track? Seriously? There were only 18,000 other shows and movies.
We're also doing Trek track.
We've also been,
that's true.
I've been trying to stay away from the Firefly quotes, just purposely.
Yes, excellent, yeah.
Number 5 is Alive!
Thank you.
Okay, got another one right next to you. Other side.
I'm sorry, I can't do that, Dave.
Easy.
You know, it's amazing. We do these all the time, and then you get up here on a panel to do it, and your mind goes.
Yeah, because I just remembered the entire, everything Conan said in the Conan the Barbarian. It would only take like 2 minutes, but yeah, all of that was good.
Okay. We're going to just do one more question, and because we're also starting to run down on time. The final question is going to be, what makes a good sci-fi classic? And, why do you watch sci-fi classics?
there was usually, sometimes it was more subtle than other, but there was that underlying bit of story that the action got you, the action and the ray guns and the special effects got you into the show. That when you were watching it, there was a moral or there was a point to the stories that happened, and that happened a lot in classic sci-fi.
Okay, Mike.
To me, it's all about characters. I mean, I dig a good story.
Here's my answer.
But as far as, with movies, movies are a little bit different than TV. That's where it separates, because with a movie, you really need a good story.
Sure.
I mean, even if the characters are good, you really need a good story if you're paying, whatever it is, $90 to go see something on the screen. But with TV, it's just, they got to push out those 24 episodes or whatever, and sometimes you get some that are not that great. But what pulls you through those shows is good characters. I mean, when I was like Battlestar Galactica, I can't say, well, that story was really awesome for all those episodes. But I can say these characters were really fun and really cool. Same thing with like Star Trek or anything like that. So to me, it's about characters.
Okay. Joe?
I was going to say that the thing that I love the most about older stuff, and I'm not going to be a fuddy-duddy. I like new stuff too. I like current stuff, shows and movies. But the stuff that makes me feel like I did when I first watched it, because I try to divorce myself from how I am today versus how I felt like when I first started watching that stuff, like what got me into, say, pro wrestling, or what got me into watching superhero cartoons or reading comics. I want to feel like I did. I want to remember how that felt, and certain older things still do that for me, and that's what I like about the old stuff.
I think something that it takes into account plot and characters and also direction is the ones that really had a big effect on me are the ones where there was just like some kind of a moment where you want to jump up and cheer, or where you just get the shivers. I mean, like with the reimagined Battlestar Galactica, there were just so many times where just that opening little bit of a teaser, I was just like, and then the music would come on and it would be like, I don't believe we are only 2 minutes into this episode and I'm already this excited.
Yeah.
Or I am a Jedi Knight like my father before me. It's like, yes! It's,
like
good
that.
Science fiction has something you can cheer for.
Exactly. My favorite one of those that you're saying is Superman 2, when Superman is hovering outside the window.
Yep.
And the hair on my arm is standing up right now, and I haven't even said the line yet, but when he says, "Would you care to step outside?" Oh my Lord.
Yes.
Because some stuff's about to go down.
Well, exactly. It's like, for me, it's seeing something new or something different, and that's what makes it great. When I saw The Matrix for the first time, the special effects and the things they did with computers with that was just awe-inspiring. Same thing with seeing Terminator 2. What they were doing with the robots and stuff, with the shape changing and being able to do that on screen, where they'd beforehand only been able to do it like stop motion or something like that, or models. This was fluid. This was metallic. This was and it was the same thing with seeing The Abyss. When you had the underwater scenes and such, just seeing the new things and the imagination and such coming to life is what made the shows and movies exciting to me. And that's what's great about classic sci-fi. And that's what makes a classic, because you remember it 20 years later, 30 years later. I couldn't remember one word from Animal if my life depended on it, But to others, it means the world to them. But that makes it classic, and that's what's great about it.
But even though, yes, you may not remember all of a certain movie, but you do remember the end. You may not remember much of Planet of the Apes, but you remember the end.
Oh yeah.
Or you remember the big parts.
Exactly.
And that's what sticks with you. So there's something to it that makes it live. I guess.
Exactly. All right. Got some up here. Oh, actually, let's go over here first. And while William's slowly walking, and
He said, "You're not paying me enough to run."
I'll be the corny of the bunch, the romance.
That's cool. No, that's good. No.
And also,
I'm with you on
the seeds that they plant in your head, like what you said about the Matrix. Like, what if this is the Matrix? And it makes you just run with it.
Something that makes you think.
Yeah, I like that.
And something that makes you, go back to it and go,
Potential possibilities, opens up those possibilities for how could the story, different ways the story could go.
Exactly.
The production values. My biggest disappointment with the new Star Wars movies was I wanted them to have the feel. I wanted the film that they used for New Hope to be used. I wanted the consoles to look the same in the background. I mean, I want to see the original Starship Enterprise flying through space like I saw last night on Star Trek Continues. I mean, they were talking about their production value for that fan film, and it's incredible. And that is, to me, what gets me out of my seat with classic sci-fi.
Of course. Okay. Wait, next.
Especially with the TV shows, are the theme songs. They stick with you. I mean, Land of the Lost, Buck Rogers. I mean, even if you don't remember all the words, you remember the story, and you can hum it all. And that was classic sci-fi, and that's what sticks in my head, besides the stories.
Well, exactly. I play this one game, I think it's called Song Pop, and one of the things I do on it is TV themes and such, and with the TV themes, I usually get them within 3 seconds because they're in your head and such. And that was one of the successes of a good TV show is if you know the theme song. As soon as you come on, you go Star Trek, whatever, X-Files, Twin Peaks, Manimal.
I'll tell you, one of the things about current TV that disappoints me the most is that they don't feel like they have the time because they're so busy about advertising that they just don't have the time for a good credit sequence, a good theme song.
Yeah, it throws up the title.
It just throws up the title and says goes to commercial or something, and that's a shame because that's what's always the fun of it too.
And that's the great thing about it is, like some of them, like minimal. If you look at Lost, where they just had the and they put the title up there, and that was it. And then they started just by putting the actors' credits and such right on in the first 5 minutes of the show and such. That kind of ruins it. Just right. I always used to love the beginning of the Monkees. Here we come, and everything, and the way it started, boom, here, and everything, and has Davey, I think it's Davey pulling the gun out or something, and it's just like it's awesome. Or Batman, da-da-da-da-da,
Yeah, they always most of the ones we remember had that really impressive and hook for that first note.
Oh yeah. Well, even something like Firefly, the guitar strum and everything. And it's like as soon as you hear what? X-Files, yeah. Night Rider. Night Rider, exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly. You have great, it's like what they call them catch, you get caught with it.
Yeah.
And it's awesome.
You find yourself with those songs, the theme songs will get in your head.
Oh, God.
Just at any old given time, suddenly a theme song's there, and
And especially the ones from when you're a kid and you grew up watching stuff. You hear that song again, and there's just a little part of you that is taken back to getting to stay up late to watch something, or just this being a special TV or movie watching experience.
Well, exactly. We were talking about this actually yesterday. I did the Sid and Marty Krofft panel, and we've done an episode on Sid and Marty Krofft in the past. Every one of the Sid and Marty Krofft theme songs are origin stories. Yeah. Basically, this is how they got there. So when the shows went on, they just hopped right into it. You had Jimmy in La La Land, or you had Sigmund and the Sea Monster, or you had Land of the Lost.
Bigfoot and Wild Boy in the Woods.
Well, Land of the Lost, though, we were talking about Land of the Lost actually had a beginning, you actually had a story as they went through and everything. It was the only Sid and Marty Krofft show that actually did that and everything, and actually kind of had an ending.
Oh, that's true. That's true. Yeah, we talked about that a little bit this morning.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, it was actually pretty cool with that. Even Transformers, you had the theme songs, and, you learn all about the characters that way, and that's what makes it great, I've always tried to make up words with Doctor Who, but, that's a whole different story. But, any last thoughts before we wrap up this episode?
we are geeky about American classic sci-fi TV. And good, because I'm glad it went so well because I did not have straps big enough
for the entire
audience.
He brought a bag of them. I said, Mike, that's just not going to be enough. So
that's for the late night DragonCons.
That's
I admit though, I am enjoying the clapping. We need to find a way to get that in a regular episode.
Yeah, exactly.
Clap track.
Yeah. Of course, if anyone wants, you can leave feedback for the show at esopodcast@gmail.com, or you can call us at 404-963-9057. Also, our show is, of course, brought to you by our fine folks at the Amazon.com e-store, where you can find very cool American classic sci-fi merchandise. And if you don't find it up on the store, you can click through to Amazon.com and you can still support the station that way. So, very cool. We'll be back next week with another fine, exciting show, and we're going to be doing our summer movie wrap-up, where we're going to talk about what we liked, what we didn't like, and how much egg do we have on our face that
see how good our guesses were.
And our fall TV
Our fall TV preview is also that episode. So
saying goodbye to summer and hello fall.
And what's coming and what's changing and who's coming and going on TV shows and such. So it should be very cool. Until then, we will see you next time on the ESO Network. My name is Mike Faber, and we'll be back next time. Peace.
I think for all of you that thought that final thing was just recorded and just used over and over. It does it every week. It really does it every week. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Yes, thanks everyone for coming.
We're also doing another episode of ESO tomorrow.
Move that table in front of here.
At 2:30 p.m. over at the podcast.
Poster is.
Tonight, Doctor
Okay.
Who Past, Present, Future.
Yes.